The heat over Tucson shimmered like liquid glass. Late afternoon, the sun sank behind the Catalina Mountains, spilling gold over the cracked highway where she drove alone, windows down. Radio low, dust gathering on her lashes. Lena Brooks had been in Arizona for 2 weeks. A former ICU nurse from Chicago, she'd taken a short-term assignment at a clinic outside town, the kind of place where gunshot wounds came in without names and people paid in cash. She'd come here to disappear, though she'd never admit that aloud. The desert was supposed to be silence, healing, distance. But there was something restless in her chest, like the world hadn't stopped whispering, even after she tried to run. That night, the air was thick with the smell of mesquite and gasoline. She pulled into the only roadside bar within 10 miles, the Coyote Line, neon flickering against the pale dusk. Inside, the light was dim, the kind that made strangers look softer than they really were. A man sat alone at the end of the bar. Black shirt rolled at the sleeves, forearms tanned, scar running down his right hand, a thin, deliberate line. He didn't look up when she walked in, but something in his stillness drew her attention, like gravity with a pulse. "Whiskey neat," she said to the bartender. He glanced at her, then at the man in black. "You new around here?" "Just passing through," she replied. "Then don't make roots," the bartender murmured, sliding the glass toward her. "And don't talk to him." She frowned. "Why not?" He leaned closer. "Because people who talk to him don't always get to leave." Lena's gaze drifted back. The man lifted his eyes for the first time. They were the color of obsidian, unflinching. He studied her like he already knew what she feared most. He raised his glass slightly. Not a greeting, not a warning. Just acknowledgement. Her pulse quickened. Later, when she stepped outside, night had swallowed the desert whole. The air smelled of rain that wouldn't fall. She lit a cigarette she didn't want and stood under the single flickering light. "You shouldn't smoke," a voice said from behind her. She turned. He was there, leaning against the post, his black truck idling nearby. "I didn't ask for advice." He smiled, slow, dangerous. "You didn't have to." He stepped closer, his presence thickening the air. There was something deliberate in his movements. Something that carried weight, the kind of man used to command. "Not conversation. Name's Raphael," he said, extending a hand. "Lena." His hand was warm, calloused. When she tried to pull away, he didn't let go right away. "You're not from here," he said. "No, you don't belong here." "Maybe that's the point." He tilted his head. "You think the desert forgives people who run from something?" "I'm not running." He smiled again, faint, disbelieving. "Everyone here is." The silence between them stretched. Cicadas buzzed from the dark. A train moaned somewhere far off, and a thin wind rolled dust along the asphalt. "Why did the bartender warn me about you?" she asked finally. Raphael's expression didn't change, but his eyes did. Something colder flickered there, quick and precise. "He likes to tell stories. Are they true?" He took a slow breath as if tasting the question. "Some are." The sound of tires crunching gravel broke the moment. A black SUV pulled into the lot, tinted windows, headlights off. Raphael's body tensed. "Go inside," he said quietly. Lena froze. "What's happening?" Now, before she could answer, 2 men stepped out of the SUV, hands at their waists. The desert went silent. Raphael turned toward them, body shifting, no fear, just precision. The taller one spoke in Spanish, his tone sharp. Raphael answered in the same language, voice low and steady. It wasn't a conversation. It was a test. One of the men moved too quickly. Raphael's hand flashed beneath his jacket. A gun, compact, black, familiar. A single shot cracked through the empty night. The man dropped. Lena's scream caught in her throat. The second man froze, then ran toward the SUV, tires spinning as he disappeared into the desert. Raphael lowered the gun, breathing calm. No trembling, no hesitation. He turned to her. "You shouldn't have seen that." Her pulse hammered. "Who the hell are you?" He looked at her for a long time. "Someone who just saved your life. By shooting someone?" He stepped closer, his voice almost a whisper. "You think the desert is quiet, but it's full of listening ears. You saw nothing. You say nothing. Understand?" She nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. Fear. curiosity, attraction. They all tangled until she couldn't tell which one she was breathing. Who were they? She asked softly. Rafal's jaw tightened. The wrong kind of men asking the wrong kind of questions. He glanced toward the mountains. Flashing lights pulsed faintly in the distance. Sirens, maybe. Go home, Lena Brooks. Forget this place. He turned to leave, but something in her, pride, defiance, loneliness, wouldn't let her. You're the wrong kind of man too, aren't you? He stopped, halfway to his truck. For a moment she thought he might deny it. Instead, he looked back, expression unreadable. I'm exactly the kind of man they warned you about. Then he was gone, the roar of the engine fading into the dark. Leaving only the echo of heat and dust and her own trembling breath, Lena stood there, watching the taillights vanish into the desert. She didn't understand why her hands were shaking from fear, or something far more dangerous. Later, in her small apartment near the clinic, she couldn't sleep. The ceiling fan hummed a slow rhythm, shadows sliding across her bare skin. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, that stillness before violence, that calm after chaos. In the morning, she drove to work as if nothing had happened. But Tucson felt different now, smaller, charged, as if the air itself remembered. At noon, a bouquet of white lilies sat on the clinic's front counter. No card, no signature. Just a single note tucked between the stems. Asterisk. Some desserts don't forgive, but some remember kindness. Asterisk. Her heart skipped. The handwriting was elegant, careful. She looked around, but no one was watching. Outside, a black truck was parked across the street, and inside, Raphael sat behind the wheel. Watching her through the glass, expression unreadable. Eyes shadowed by the sun. He didn't move, didn't wave. Just watched. Then the truck rolled forward, slow, deliberate, vanishing again into the endless desert road. Lena's breath trembled as she stared after him, fingers tightening around the note until it crumpled in her palm. She didn't know yet, not really, that this was the beginning, that the man they warned her about would soon unravel everything she thought. She was running from and that the next time she saw him, she wouldn't run, she would kiss him, and it would change everything. The desert morning was merciless, all light and silence, the kind that left no room for secrets. Lena drove past the dry riverbeds and saguaros toward the clinic, her fingers gripping the steering wheel tighter than she meant to. The note from the lily sat in the glove compartment. She'd read it too many times already. For 3 days she hadn't seen Raphael. But she felt him everywhere, in the way the street corners lingered too long in shadow, in the hum of trucks that passed her window at night. Every sound seemed to hold his shape. Inside the clinic, the air smelled of antiseptic and sweat. The waiting room was already full. Migrant workers, a teenage boy with a stitched eyebrow, a mother holding a feverish baby. It was a place where people came to survive, not to heal. "Morning, Brooks," said Dr. Harris, glancing over his clipboard. "You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," she replied, forcing a small smile. He didn't press. Around here, everyone learned not to ask. At noon, she stepped outside for air. The sun was punishing, a white blaze over pale asphalt. That's when she saw it again, a black truck, parked 2 blocks away. Her stomach tightened. When she turned to look again, it was gone. That night, she dreamt of him, standing in a sandstorm, his face half hidden, his voice low. "You shouldn't have seen that." She woke gasping, drenched in sweat, the desert wind howling through the open window. The next morning, she found him waiting by her car. Raphael. Lena. His voice was calm, as if they'd seen each other yesterday. He wore the same black shirt, sleeves rolled. The same quiet tension beneath his skin. "What do you want?" "To talk about what?" "The man you shot?" His jaw tightened. "About the fact that they know you were there." She froze. "What do you mean they?" "The men you saw, they work for someone. A man who doesn't like witnesses." Her breath hitched. "So you're saying I'm being watched," he finished for her. A truck rumbled past. He looked around before stepping closer. "You need to leave Tucson, tonight. I can't just disappear." "You did once before," he said quietly. Her heart stuttered. "You don't know anything about me." He looked at her, really looked. "You'd be surprised." The way he said it made her chest tighten. She wanted to demand how he knew, but something about his gaze silenced her. She whispered. He hesitated, the smallest flicker of emotion. Because they'll come for you through me. And I don't want more blood. Through you? He met her eyes. Because I used to work for them. The words hit harder than she expected. He didn't flinch. You're Cartel, she said softly. I was, he corrected. I'm not anymore. You killed a man. I did what I had to. And what's that supposed to mean? It means sometimes survival looks like sin. The wind picked up, sweeping sand across the empty lot. He stepped closer, his shadow merging with hers. You can hate me if it helps, he said, voice low. But you should listen to me. Leave this town. She searched his face, the scar, the stillness, the weight in his eyes. There was something broken there, something she recognized too easily. I can't, she said finally. Not yet. He exhaled, half a sigh, half a curse. Then you'll need protection. And you'll provide that? His smile was faint. You sound like you don't trust me. I don't. Good, he said. Don't. She tried to walk away, but he caught her wrist, not roughly, but firmly. Lena, her pulse jumped. If anyone follows you, if anything feels wrong, you come to the old airstrip outside town. Third hangar. Don't call. Don't text. Just come. Why should I? His eyes softened. Because by the time you realize you need to, it might already be too late. That night, Lena sat on her porch, the sound of crickets filling the dark. Every car that passed made her flinch. She thought of Chicago, the noise, the rain, the way she'd left everything after the accident that still haunted her. The one that killed her fiancé, that was what she'd run from. That's why she came here, to forget. But the desert had other plans. Near midnight. She heard footsteps, slow, careful. She turned off the light, peering through the blinds. A shadow crossed the yard. A man tall, moving with purpose. Not Raphael. Her chest constricted. The front door rattled once. Then silence. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling. No signal. The power flickered once, then died. She backed away from the window, heart pounding, whispering to herself. It's fine. It's nothing. The doorknob turned. Lena bolted for the kitchen, grabbing the only weapon she had, a paring knife. The door creaked open. A beam of moonlight sliced across the floor. Lena! A voice called softly. It's me. Raphael. She nearly collapsed. What the hell are you doing here? He stepped inside, eyes scanning the dark. You were being watched. One of them followed you from the clinic. She swallowed hard. How do you know? Because I took care of him. Her stomach twisted. He's gone, he said simply. You don't need to be afraid tonight. But she was. Not of whoever was outside, of him. Of how calm he sounded saying it. He moved closer, the smell of dust and leather surrounding him. You're shaking. I'm fine. He touched her wrist, his hand rough and steady. No, you're not. Her breath came shallow. The air between them felt electric, heavy with everything unsaid. I don't want your protection, she whispered. Yes, you do. She tried to pull back, but his hand lingered, not forceful, not soft either. The kind of touch that carried warning and comfort at once. Why are you really here, Raphael? He didn't answer right away. His eyes searched hers as if there were something sacred hidden in them. Because the world I left behind doesn't forget. And because the moment you walked into that bar, it remembered me. What are you saying? I'm saying they'll use you to find me. She stared at him, heartbeat quickening. So I'm bait. No, he said quietly. You're the consequence. She wanted to hate him for that. Instead, all she felt was the pull, that strange, dangerous gravity again. The desert wind pushed against the open door, stirring her hair, filling the silence between them. He looked down at her mouth. Just once, then he stepped back. Lock the door behind me. She almost told him to stay, almost, but he was already gone, swallowed by the dark. By whatever world still claimed him. Lena locked the door and sank to the floor, the knife slipping from her hand. Outside, thunder rumbled over the mountains. Though no storm was coming, she didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because every time she closed her eyes, she could still feel the warmth of his hand on her skin, and deep down beneath the fear, a truth began to form, sharp, inevitable, dangerous. She didn't believe his warning anymore, because the desert wasn't lying to her. He was. The rain came at last, heavy, sudden, and strange. Tucson rarely saw storms like that in October. The clouds rolled in over the desert like bruises, and the sky cracked open with sound. Lena sat in her car outside the clinic, watching the downpour blur the world into watercolor. Her reflection in the glass looked older, tired, someone who'd seen too much in too little time. She hadn't spoken to Raphael in 4 days, but the memory of his touch, his warning, still burned under her skin. She kept hearing his words, "You're the consequence." That morning, the clinic received a new patient, a young man, mid-20s, bullet wound to the shoulder. He was pale, frightened, silent. When she asked his name, he said, "Doesn't matter," and flinched every time a car passed outside. The sheriff's deputy who brought him in gave Lena a quiet look. "Found him near the old airstrip," he said. "Looks like cartel business." Lena's pulse stuttered. After the deputy left, she approached the young man again. "Who did this to you?" He looked up, eyes wide. "They're looking for him. The one who betrayed them. The one with the scar." Her hands went cold. "Raphael?" The man's eyes flickered. "You know him?" She said nothing. He leaned closer. "Then you need to run." By the time she turned around, the sheriff's cruiser was gone, and so was the man. Just vanished. That night, Lena drove aimlessly through the rain, past shuttered gas stations and flickering motels, until she saw the faint orange glow of light near the mountains. The old airstrip. The third hangar door was slightly open. She should have turned back. She did single quotes T. Inside. The air smelled of oil and dust. A single bulb swung from the ceiling, throwing shadows over crates and rusted tools. And then his voice, "You shouldn't have come." Raphael stepped out of the dark, soaked through, eyes like flint. "You told me to if something was wrong," she said. "And it is." He studied her for a long time. "What happened?" "Someone came to the clinic. Said they were looking for you." He swore under his breath, pacing once. "You shouldn't have talked to him." "I didn't. It doesn't matter. They'll come again. And they won't ask twice." She stepped closer, anger breaking through her fear. "You're the one who dragged me into this." He stopped moving, his jaw tightening. "You walked into that bar, Lena." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know who you were." He looked at her then, really looked, and something in his expression softened just for a heartbeat. "Neither did I." The rain hammered harder against the roof, the sound like 1,000 heartbeats. She was trembling from anger or something else. "I want to understand," she whispered. "What did you do?" Raphael's breath came slow. "I ran. From what?" "From the man who made me kill for him." She flinched. "The man who sent them after you." He nodded once. "Santiago Vega. He owns half the desert, half the people in it. I was his enforcer. Until I couldn't be." "What changed?" His eyes found hers. "Someone begged me not to pull the trigger." "Who?" "You." Her breath caught. "That doesn't make sense." "It will." He turned away, lighting a cigarette with hands that didn't shake. Smoke drifted through the dim air. "I've seen you before, Lena, months ago. In Nogales. You were helping a woman who'd been shot, one of Santiago's mules. You stayed with her until she died. You looked at me like I was the monster who did it." Her pulse raced. "I don't remember." "You do," he said quietly. "You just don't want to." Memory flickered. The border clinic. A woman's blood on her hands. A man standing in the doorway, same eyes, same scar. She stumbled back a step. "That was you." "I left that night," he said. "I thought I could disappear." "But Vega doesn't forgive betrayal." She shook her head, heart pounding. "You're saying this is my fault?" "That because I saw you then, I'm saying our paths were already tied. Tucson just made sure we met again." Lightning split the sky, flashing through the hangar. She saw it then, the packed duffel by his feet, the gun tucked at his belt, the unspoken truth in his eyes. "You're leaving," she said. "I have to. What happens to me?" He looked at her like it hurt. "If you stay here, you die." She stepped closer. "And if I go with you?" His expression hardened. "Then you lose everything you haven't even rebuilt yet." Rainwater dripped from his hair. She could feel the heat of him now, standing so close. The storm pressed around them, thunder shaking the walls. Why do you care what happens to me? She whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out, slow, hesitant, and brushed his thumb against the side of her face. Her breath caught. You shouldn't make me care, he said, then stop. He didn't. She lifted her chin, eyes locked on his. The air between them pulsed, danger, desire, defiance, all of it colliding in the space of a breath. Tell me the truth, she said. Are you using me, Raphael? He leaned in, his voice a low ache. I'm trying not to. Then he kissed her. It was slow at first, a confession disguised as contact. Then deeper, desperate, hungry, the kind of kiss that tasted like warning and memory. She felt the world tilt under her feet. Every reason to stop dissolved in the heat of him. When he finally pulled away, his breath was uneven. You shouldn't have done that. You kissed me back. That's what makes it worse. He took a step back, as if distance could undo what just happened. They'll come soon, he said. If they don't find me, they'll find you. You need to be ready. Ready for what? To see who I really am. She reached for him. But he was already gone, swallowed again by the storm. Leaving only rain and the echo of everything that couldn't be unsaid, Lena stood alone in the hangar. Her lips trembling, the taste of smoke and rain still on them. Outside, thunder rolled like gunfire. For the first time, she realized she didn't want to run anymore. Whatever truth Raphael carried, whatever secret he was hiding, she needed to know, even if it broke her. The morning after the storm, the desert was reborn, every cactus glistening, every grain of sand alive with color. But Tucson felt wrong. Too still. Like the air itself was waiting. Lena couldn't find Raphael. His phone went to voicemail. The airstrip was empty. The only trace of him was the memory of that kiss, heavy as a promise and just as dangerous. At the clinic, she worked through the motions, dressing wounds, taking vitals, pretending her hands didn't shake. But by noon, 2 men came in asking questions. They weren't patients. Their boots were clean. Their voices too polite. We're looking for a man, one said, showing a photo. Raphael, younger, harder-eyed, the same scar across his hand. Goes by many names. You seen him? Lena forced her breath steady. No, the man studied her face a moment too long. If you do, tell him Santiago Vega sends his regards. When they left, her knees nearly gave out. She knew then they'd found Tucson. By nightfall, she was at her apartment packing a bag. Just in case. A knock came at the door. 3 sharp taps, she froze. Who is it? It's me. Raphael. She opened the door, relief flooding through her, until she saw the blood on his shirt. Oh my God, what happened? Nothing fatal, he said, stepping inside. But we don't have much time. Who did this to you? He sank into the chair by the window, wiping rain and sweat from his brow. Vega's men hit the airstrip. They found one of my contacts. He talked. Her voice trembled. They know about me. He nodded once. And they'll come tonight. Lena dropped her bag. Then let's go. Now. He didn't move. His eyes were distant, calculating. You don't understand. Vega doesn't stop. We could drive for days, weeks, he'd still find us. There's only one way this ends. She stared at him, fear crawling up her spine. You're going to kill him. Raphael looked up. I have to. No, she said. You think killing him will save you, but it won't. It'll just turn you back into what you were running from. His voice was quiet. It's not about me anymore. She stepped closer, kneeling in front of him. Then what is it about? He met her eyes, and for a moment the man behind the weapon surfaced. The one who smiled at her in the desert wind. It's about you. Her breath caught. I told you, he said. You shouldn't have made me care. Because now I can't let him touch you. The rain started again, soft, steady, almost tender. She wanted to believe him, to trust the ache in his voice. But deep down, she knew love built on fear only ended in ruin. Raphael, she whispered. Don't do this. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. If anything happens to me, there's a storage unit on the south side. Inside there's a key. Take it and leave the state. Stop, she said, tears welling. Don't talk like that. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. You have to promise me. I won't. Promise me, Lena. Her voice broke. I can't promise to live in a world where you don't exist. For a second he closed his eyes. The silence between them felt like the edge of something vast. Then a gunshot shattered the window. Lena screamed as glass exploded across the room. Raphael grabbed her, pulling her to the floor. Another shot tore through the wall. They found us, he muttered, reaching for his weapon. Raphael, stay down. He crawled toward the door, moving with lethal precision. Outside, headlights swept across the street. 2 cars. Men in black, weapons raised. Lena's heart pounded as he opened fire. The world blurred into chaos. Flashes, thunder, shouts in Spanish. When it was over, the silence was worse than the noise. Raphael stumbled back inside, breathing hard, his arm bleeding. We have to move. She grabbed her bag, following him into the night. The streets glistened with rain, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. They reached his truck, engines roaring as they sped out of town. Tucson vanished behind them, swallowed by stormlight. Hours later, they reached the foothills north of the city. Raphael parked near an abandoned motel, engine idling. He looked at her, rain dripping from his jawline. You still have time to walk away, he said. I'm not leaving you. He smiled, faint and weary. You should have. They sat in silence, the wipers beating a slow rhythm. Outside, the desert stretched endless, soaked, silent, infinite. Tell me the truth, Lena said finally. If you kill Vega, what happens to you? He looked out the window. Maybe I stop running. Maybe I don't live long enough to find out. She reached for his hand. Then don't go alone. He turned to her, eyes dark with something between love and despair. You think this is love? She didn't answer. She just leaned in, kissed him again, harder this time. The kind of kiss that says I'd rather burn than forget. When it ended, he whispered against her lips. Then you're coming with me to hell. They left before dawn. The desert at sunrise was almost holy, gold bleeding into red, clouds torn thin across the sky. Raphael drove in silence, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the road that led south, toward the border, toward Santiago Vega. Lena's fingers brushed his arm. We'll make it, she said. We'll find a way. He didn't answer. At mile marker 47, a black SUV appeared in the rearview mirror. Then another. Her breath hitched. Raphael, I see them. He accelerated, tires skidding over the wet road. Bullets tore through the rear window. She screamed as the truck fishtailed. He swerved hard, cutting down a dirt road toward the canyons. Dust and rain swallowed them whole. The chase blurred into terror, rocks, shouting, metal. Then an explosion of sound. The world flipped. The truck crashed sideways, rolling once, twice, silence, smoke, the smell of gasoline. Lena opened her eyes through blood and dust. Raphael lay beside her, barely breathing, glass embedded in his arm. Raphael, she whispered. Crawling toward him. He coughed, blood staining his lips. Go! No, I'm not leaving you. He reached into his jacket, pressing something into her hand, a small silver key. The storage unit, he said, voice breaking. Inside, you'll find the truth. Raphael, stop! But his eyes were fading. She shook him, crying now, desperate. Don't you dare leave me, please. His fingers brushed her cheek, trembling. I told you. The desert remembers. Then his hand fell, and Lena screamed, the kind of sound that breaks the night open. Outside, engines approached. Men shouting in Spanish. She grabbed the key and ran into the canyons. Barefoot, bleeding, heart splintered beyond repair. Behind her. Flames rose into the dawn, and the man they warned her about, the man she kissed anyway, disappeared into the fire. The desert swallowed her for 2 days. Lena wandered through dust and heat, her clothes torn, her hands raw. The only thing she carried was the small silver key, warm from her palm, heavy with meaning she didn't yet understand. Every night she dreamed of Raphael, his voice in the storm, the way he said the desert remembers. By the 3rd morning, she found a gas station off I-19, miles from where the truck burned. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror didn't look like her, sunburnt. Hollow-eyed, fierce, she borrowed a stranger's phone. Trembling fingers dialing the number on the keychain, a Tucson storage facility. Unit 47. The man on the other end gave her the address. No questions asked. By sunset, she was standing before it, a rusted metal door, padlocked, dust swirling in the dry wind. The last orange light of day cut across the valley like an open wound. Her hands shook as she turned the key. The door creaked open. Inside, it was dark, the air stale and cold. A single bulb flickered overhead. Boxes lined the walls, files, photos, stacks of cash wrapped in plastic, guns, a map of southern Arizona marked with red circles. And on the metal table, a single envelope with her name written in neat, deliberate handwriting. She hesitated, then tore it open. Inside were photographs, her, at the clinic, months before Raphael ever spoke to her. Another of her walking to her car, unaware. Another at the gas station near the border. And beneath the photos, a letter. Lena, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I need you to know the truth. The one I could never say out loud. You weren't a coincidence. You were the reason I left Vega. You were the nurse who tried to save his sister, the only innocent in that world. When she died, Vega blamed me. But you looked at me like I was still human. You said one sentence I've never forgotten. You can stop this. You didn't know what you meant. But I did. I walked away that night because of you. I've been walking ever since. The money in these boxes is everything Vega built on blood. Take it, disappear, make something good out of what he ruined. It's the only redemption I have left to give. Lena's knees gave out. She sank to the floor, the letter shaking in her hands. Tears burned down her cheeks. You stupid, broken man, she whispered. You never stopped running toward me. She stayed there until night fell. The desert wind crept in through the door, carrying the scent of rain and gasoline. Then, a sound. On gravel outside, her breath hitched. She reached for one of the guns on the table, hands trembling. Who's there? A man's voice, calm, cruel. You must be the nurse. She froze. A tall figure stepped into the light, black coat, gold watch glinting at his wrist, the kind of face that smiled without warmth. Santiago Vega? She whispered. He smiled. You've been busy, Miss Brooks. Her pulse roared in her ears. You killed him. Vega tilted his head. If I did, it was mercy. Men like him don't die easy. Why are you here? To collect what's mine. He glanced at the boxes, the maps, the cash, and to clean up what's left of him. She raised the gun, arms shaking. You're not taking anything. He chuckled softly. You think he didn't plan this? He left you here to die, just like everyone else. You were bait, sweetheart. You led me straight to him. Her stomach twisted. You're lying. Am I? Vega took a step closer. Ask yourself why that storage unit was still active. Why he left you the key. Why there's a tracker under this table. He reached down and tore it free. A small black device blinking red. Lena's chest caved in. No, Vega's smile widened. He didn't die in that fire, you know. My men pulled him out. Barely breathing. He told me you'd come here. He made sure you would. The world tilted. That's not true. Why do you think I'm here, Miss Brooks? He led me right to you. Said it was the only way to end this. Lena's vision blurred. The gun wavered. You're lying, she said again, but her voice broke. Vega's eyes softened almost kindly. He loved you, I'll give him that. But love's just another form of leverage. He raised his own gun. The sound shattered the air. One shot, deafening. For a moment, Lena thought she was the one who'd fallen. But it was Vega. He staggered, eyes wide, a bloom of red spreading across his chest. Behind him, a shadow moved. Raphael. He looked different, pale, scarred, alive, but barely. Smoke hurled from the pistol in his hand. Lena couldn't breathe. You're alive! He took one step forward, then another until he was standing over Vega's body. Not for long. She ran to him, clutching his arm. You shouldn't be here. I had to finish it, he said, voice raw. He was right. I did use you. At first. Her eyes filled with tears. Don't. But then it wasn't about him anymore. He looked at her and she saw it. Every secret, every regret. It was about the only person who ever saw me as more than what I'd done. You didn't have to die for that. He smiled faintly. No, but maybe I have to die for something. His knees buckled. She caught him, lowering him to the floor. Blood soaked through his shirt. Stay with me, she whispered, pressing her hands against the wound. Please. He lifted his hand, fingers brushing her cheek. You told me once I could stop this. Raphael, please, and I did, he said. His breath hitched. But you have to finish it. Her tears fell onto his face, salt mixing with dust. I can't. Yes, you can. Take the money. Leave. Start over. Not without you. He smiled, small, broken, beautiful. The desert remembers kindness, Lena. Then his eyes closed. The wind outside rose into a low, mournful howl. She sat there for a long time, holding him, until the stars came out, endless, indifferent, shimmering over the quiet sand. When dawn broke, she walked out of the storage unit with the letter in her pocket, the key around her neck, and a truck full of cash she didn't want but couldn't leave behind. She drove east, past the mountains, past the border roads, until the desert turned green again. Months later, in a small town in New Mexico, a clinic opened under a new name. Inside, a nurse with scarred hands treated those who had nowhere else to go. No one knew where she came from. But every year, when the monsoon rains began, she left white lily at the edge of the desert, the kind that only bloom after storms. And somewhere out there, when the wind was right, she swore she could still hear his voice. You shouldn't have made me care, but she had, and it changed everything.